Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Legal Talk. I'm your host, John Mitchell. We're here on the Now Media Network. I am so happy, overjoyed, ecstatic, in fact, to have everybody out there with us on the audience, and really, really appreciate it. And I am going to bring to the table, I hope you're hungry, because I've got a table set for you. I got some really great information that we're going to talk about today. And, I usually try and go out and ask people around me what kind of tax questions do they have. I can come in here, I can talk about it on the show, and, bring everybody some good knowledge that people can use, the stuff that's going to be important to know about taxes. That's my specialty. Hopefully later on I'll be able to talk about a few other legal issues, because I can do that also. But, my specialty is taxes. So if you out there have tax questions, you can also send those to me at jmitchell@cctaxlaw.com. And, if it's a question that's important enough, it rises to the level, not some, niche thing, I'll try to answer you individually if that's the case. But if not, if it's a kind of a wide-ranging topic that everybody can get something out of, I love to hear from folks out there in the audience, and I love to get questions, and I will talk about those questions as they come up here on the big show. So one of the things that has come up and does come up, pretty frequently, let's say, despite my best efforts, I filed my tax return, and then I figured out, oh my God, I made a mistake. Right? My tax returns, I got the numbers. I've seen everything happen from, they transposed numbers and it was supposed to be 619 and they put 691. So sometimes there's, mistakes like that happen. Sometimes, oh my God, a big one is, I forgot, right? So I filed my tax return and then later, after the fact, I get another, 1099 INT, I got some bank interest, I got some dividends, whatever it is. Oh my God, I forgot to include that income, right? So anytime that you have already filed your tax return and then you figure out, oh my goodness, there's a mistake that happened. I made a mistake on my return. I jokingly say, what if you accidentally put your dog, your cat, as a dependent? Don't do that. Can't do that. But let's say you did so, and you did it innocently enough. You didn't know. You're like, oh my God, I'm a pet parent. That's people say, right? I'm a pet parent. Pets are like my kids. I'm going to put them on a tax return. They cost me a lot of money. I have to buy kibble. I got to take them to the vet. Why do I not get to take them as a dependent, right? They're my companion. I need these animals, right? All that's true, and God bless you, but IRS doesn't see it that way. You cannot claim your pets as dependents on the tax return. But let's say you did, and then somebody told you, you did that, you filed your tax return, and then you came to see John Mitchell, and John told you, oh my God, you shouldn't have done that. You're going to get in big trouble. IRS is going to be after you. So now what do, right? So you can file, if you're an individual, you filed a tax return, a Form 1040, right? Everybody's familiar with the 1040, the 1040, right? But a lot of people don't know there is an amended tax return form called a 1040X. Letter X, right? So 1040X, no, it has nothing to do with Elon Musk or, formerly Twitter, whatever it is. No, 1040X has been around for many years, long, decades and decades. That's what they've called it. So that's your form for making a correction. Oops, IRS, sorry, I made a mistake. Let me go ahead and file a corrected tax return. And if you file that corrected tax return, normally, the IRS will accept that. Now, funny enough, a lot of people don't know this. The IRS is not obligated to allow you to file an amended, corrected tax return. Once you've filed your return and the filing deadline is passed, well, they have discretion to say, no, we're not gonna let you file an amended return. Very rarely do you ever see that. I've seen it, a couple of times. I've been doing this for a good long 30 or so years now. And I've seen a couple of times where the IRS has pushed back and said, no, we're not going to allow an amended tax return. But one of the things you want to do, very important, is if you need to make a change and you need to correct your tax return, one of the big recommendations I always have for people is do it as soon as you possibly can. The minute, the day, the week that you figured out that something was wrong, go ahead and file that. And here's the reason why. Let's say you filed your tax return on January 30th. And then, February rolls around, you get another form. Oh my God, I forgot to include this. Let me make a corrected, amended tax return, right? If you do that before the filing deadline, so let's say you filed your tax return January 30th, but you had up until April 15th to file that. So if you file a 1040X before April 15th, this is getting a little bit technical. Follow along with me because you're going to like this. It's going to be important. So if you filed your correction to your tax return, your amended return, 1040X, if you file that before April 15th, that's technically not called an amended tax return. Yeah, I know, even though that's what it says on the form, right across the top. But IRS, when they process it, it's not considered an amended tax return. It's going to be called what they call a superseding tax return, which what that does is that just knocks out the previous return, and now this counts as your original tax return as long as it's before your filing deadline. Right? So you filed on January the 20th, and oh my God, come around middle of February, oh geez, I forgot, I need to correct something, I need to make a change. Do that, and as long as it's before April 15th, you have now filed what they call a superseding tax return, and you don't need to do anything else. Fill it out, send it in, and that's the difference. There is the IRS has to accept that. Whereas if it's actually a real honest to God amended tax return, they have a little bit of discretion there. They can say, no, we're not going to make the change for you, right? And now the IRS prefers that you not make any additional amended or corrected or superseding filings at all. They'd rather you didn't, because it's just double work for them, right? But also the other thing is, if they, if you filed a tax return and you figure out there's a mistake on it, well, a lot of people will argue it's incumbent upon you, because you're going to file, comply with your legal obligations. You're going to file as best you can, right? And if you discover there was a mistake, I mean, my advice to you is go ahead and make that correction, even if it's a couple of years later. One of the things to keep in mind, let's say you had a tax return and you, for whatever reason, life happens, right? And you owed a bunch of money on your tax return, right? So let's say 5 years goes by and you figure out, oh my God, I made a mistake. It turns out I filed incorrectly. I made a mistake. I don't owe $100,000. It's only $10,000. I moved the decimal point, right? I made a mistake. Well, if the IRS is still collecting on that, you can file an amended tax return, and what that does is they call it an abatement, right? So an abatement is to adjust the amount of money that you owe, make it a downward adjustment. So if you owed, you purported to owe $100,000, and then you file an amended return. Oh my God, I've caught my mistake. It was not supposed to be 100. It was supposed to be 10. File it now, and there's no deadline on that. So you can always abate a tax due, right? Now, here's the tricky part also. Let's say more than 3 years has gone by and you got a refund. Well, you can do your amended tax return. They might accept it and they'll send you a letter saying it's accepted. But then what happens? More than 3 years have gone by. You're outside of what they call the refund, the RSED, the Refund Statute End Date, right? So 3 years has gone by. You're not going to get a refund anymore, right? And the rules go a little bit deeper than that, but I'm not trying to bury everybody in a bunch of rules today. Just to say this, right? In general, if you owe money and it's more than 3 years has gone by and you discover a legitimate mistake, you can file that amended return, make your corrections, and reduce the amount of money that you're going to end up paying the IRS. And by the way, what a lot of people don't realize, if you said that you owed 100,000 and oops, it turns out you only owed 10, and you didn't pay that 100,000, and they've sent you letters and they've started charging you a bunch of interest and penalties. When you get them to reduce the original debt from 100 down to the 10, that's also going to make a proportional reduction in your interest and penalties. So those are going to go down automatically. So it's important, if you find out that you made a mistake and you filed your tax return and oops, I put down that I owed more money than I really did. Well, if it's enough money to make it worth it, man, I'm going to mess around with $100 or whatever, right? But if it's enough money to make it worth it to you, then go ahead and file your amended return, your 1040X. You're going to get a letter back from the IRS. It takes them several weeks. It takes like 12 weeks or so for them to process under normal circumstances. And it can be a lot longer than that, but usually it's 12 weeks is their turnaround time to process an amended tax return. So if you originally owed too much money and you've discovered a mistake, go ahead, file the amended return, and they're going to send you a letter and say, okay, your account has been adjusted. You don't owe us 100,000, you owe us 10,000, right? So you can do that, or it might be if you got a refund you were expecting. If you were expecting a refund, oh hey, instead of owing 10,000, I was supposed to get $1,000 back. But more than 3 years have passed. Well, they're going to send you a letter and say, hey, we corrected your account, but you're outside of the time limit to claim that money. 3 years was your deadline. You're past the 3 years. So sorry. We made the corrections in the computer, but so sorry, no money for you. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Better luck next time, right? That's basically what the IRS is going to tell you. So, you can always try and make an amended return, make your corrections. Again, if it's past the filing deadline, that's an amended return. If not, it's a superseding. Difference being, IRS has to accept the superseding. They don't necessarily have to accept the amended, although they usually do. And that's the refund deadlines. So if you make an amended return and you're supposed to get a refund and it's past the deadline, so sorry, no money for you. But if you owe money, then you can get the IRS to go ahead and make a correction, and you don't owe that money. And also, final point, just to reiterate, if you correct the original tax amount, that automatically corrects the interest and it automatically corrects the penalties. Okay, so again, I am your host of the Legal Talk Show, John Mitchell. I am an expert in taxes, all things tax. Been in this game for 30 years. So if you guys out there have tax questions, you can find me at my Houston, Texas location extraordinaire, 713-333-0555. We're in the beautiful Greenway Plaza area of Houston, Texas, but not to worry. I am able to represent people all across the United States, and I have people all across the United States, and I even have clients in other countries that have U.S. tax situations going on. So I'm able to help you, no problem at all, right? Or you can always send me an email, again, jmitchell@cctaxlaw.com. Love to hear from people out there. If you have a tax problem that you want me to represent you and solve, then you can contact me about that. Or if you just want to contact me and say, hey, saw you on the show, you're looking mighty handsome there. You can do that. Or you have a tax question, try and get it on the show for you. So again, this has been Legal Talk. I am your host, John Mitchell. Thank you, everybody, for being out there in the audience and checking us out. And we will be back next time on Legal Talk with more good, excellent, actionable information for you. Thanks so much.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.